Hello everyone, welcome back to Trek Day, and now that Season 2 has concluded, I'd like to do a little bit of a Season 2 overview, especially now that I've had some time to think about some episodes, and then at the end, do a bit of a ranking of what we have so far of Strange New Worlds, some of my favorites, and had some time to think about some of these episodes since my initial reactions, which are literally right after I stopped watching them, and sometimes things change a little bit in there. And part of why I wanted to do it was that I had kind of an odd experience that I couldn't quite put my finger on at first during the course of Season 2 that I didn't really talk about much, because it was more after the fact, a day or two after watching each episode rather than a few minutes after watching the episode when I filmed those videos. And I finally kind of figured out what was going on in my mind. For starters, just as an overall impression, I liked Season 2. I liked a lot of what it did and a lot of the chances that it took. But at the same time, I overall prefer the first season. To me, I don't know, that a lot of the first season, looking as a whole rather than individual episodes, I think more of Season 1 worked for me and flowed better than Season 2, even though looking at individual episodes, they're fairly comparable. And starting off my experience with the first episode of the season, I liked that episode. I was definitely a bit overly positive in my initial reaction to it, but that was more because of the positive outlook that it created. Season 1 was a bit of a surprise for me with how well it actually worked and felt very genuinely Star Trek, and I just liked the way it was coming along, and was a bit worried that maybe that was a one-time thing and it was just luck that it happened and Season 2 was not going to pull it off a second time. And that first episode of the second season, for me, really just solidified that, okay, maybe Season 2 will be just as good, if not better. And that was really where a lot of my excitement came from with watching that, is the anticipation leading up to it. And will it be good or will it be disappointing? And it was pretty good. And that excitement, that, surprise, like, oh man, they're going to pull it off, that build-up was a huge part of why I really enjoyed that. And I could really, from that point, split my experience with the season into episodes 1 to 6, and then how I felt from 7, 8, 9, and 10. Because 1 to 6, it was a little up and down for me, and it was weird because I was enjoying every episode, really. Even the one Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, which was a little more negative on, I still enjoyed it. But even the better episodes, I was loving them in the moment, but they weren't really sticking with me. Normally, if I am reading something or watching something or playing something that has a very powerful emotional connection, or is really, really just a very high quality, or makes you ask questions, it's something that sticks with me, and a few days later I'm still thinking about it. And for the first 6 episodes of Season 2, that wasn't happening. I was watching them, I was enjoying them for what they were, and then I just didn't even think about them again. There wasn't really that staying power in my mind, and there wasn't this lasting, this lingering that I feel like really great television normally has for me. And it wasn't until right around the time I was going to watch the 7th episode, the crossover, Those Old Scientists, the crossover with Lower Decks, that I really finally figured out what was happening with me in thinking about these episodes, because that episode I watched with my wife Amanda, who hasn't really watched Strange New Worlds, but she wanted to watch it because she really likes Lower Decks. And that's when it really clicked, because Amanda and I have been rewatching Star Trek from the beginning. Something that I have not done in a long time, and she's never really done. Just it's been more of, ever since after the first airing, just random episodes and reruns or whatever I happen to be watching and she watches, or growing up, whatever random episodes her dad would be watching. So we thought it'd be a really fun thing to do that over the course of probably a year or two at least. And so I was watching an episode of Strange New Worlds, and then sometimes that same day or the next day or so, I'd watch something like The Devil in the Dark or The City on the Edge of Forever. And as much as I'm enjoying a lot of Strange New Worlds, when you're butting up against some episodes like that, there's just no comparison. Like, I even my absolute favorite episodes of Strange New Worlds aren't even in the same category as something like The City on the Edge of Forever. Like, it's not even close. And I think that was what was happening with me, is that because they're both, while we're watching TOS and we're into season 2 now, and specifically because it's Strange New Worlds, where it is a TOS era, right before the start of that series, and a lot of comparisons, watching something very comparable but significantly better kind of negated any lingering of those episodes in my mind. It was part of why the finale of season 1 didn't click with me as much as I felt like it should have, even though I really enjoyed season 1 of Strange New Worlds. It was because, obviously, the direct comparison to Balance of Terror, and rewatching that right after it's not even close. And that, again, it's the comparison. And I think that's why from episode 7 onwards, I liked Strange New Worlds more, because it was not as directly comparable to TOS and what I was rewatching. It stood out more as being something a little different, and that's why I think the end of that season I found to be more engaging, because I wasn't watching something in conjunction that was comparable but infinitely better. And I enjoyed the chances that it took a little more in some of those later episodes, whether they worked or didn't work, and some of them just, none of them were going to work for everyone, but just taking the risk of doing high concept stuff that is a little bit out there and is very different and is not guaranteed to come out and be a quality product, stuff that is just risky, especially this early on in a series. I appreciate at least the effort. And growing up with all these classic Star Trek of the 60s and the 80s through the early 2000s, the entirety of Stranger Worlds, we still have fewer episodes than a single season of any of those shows. So for them to try and pull off a crossover with another show and a musical episode, a lot of the more risky stuff they were doing, those are things that shows wait till season 4, 5, 6 usually to try and pull off. So to do it really early, it's almost like, has there been enough development? Like, has the show really earned trying doing things that risky? And just the fact that they were pulled off was interesting for me. Ones like the musical Subspace Rhapsody, I rewatched that again with my wife, and she did not like it at all. She was not really into it. And for me too, I did an episode, not a lot of people seem to watch it so far, so check it out. I did talking about the overall, my favorite musical episodes that different TV shows have tried over the years, and Subspace Rhapsody made it pretty squarely in the middle of that, because I really enjoyed it. But I think part of what I really liked about it, what I think was successful, was taking the chance of doing not just a musical episode, but a Star Trek musical, something that's never been done before in a massive franchise, doing it very early on in the run of a season, and it could have been an absolute disaster and a mess. I know some people thought it was, but for me, I thought it was overall successful. It's not something that would ever be in, say, it's not going to crack into that top 100 episodes of Star Trek that I did, but I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed it partially because I appreciated and recognized the difficult task of pulling that off at all. And those old scientists, I mean, just the idea of merging with this comedic animated series, I mean, how are you going to make that work? To pull that off at all is already an interesting accomplishment. And again, I like the episodes where they really took chances and did something different, and it turned out to be fantastic. And then you have episodes like Under the Cloak of War, episode 8, which was very reminiscent to a lot of what I like in series like Deep Space Nine. That, I think, just worked wonderfully as well. There's so much, and then even the season ending, even though it was a bit underwhelming, I still liked a lot of it, and I thought it was overall enjoyable. So as a season, I overall very much enjoyed Season 2 of Strange New Worlds. Liked Season 1 a little bit more, but I appreciated the chances that it took. I appreciated the variety in the episodes in such a short, just 10 episodes. It's not going to be one of my overall favorite seasons of Star Trek in general, but it was a very enjoyable season, and I'm looking forward to Season 3. Hopefully that still comes to be, and we'll see how long it is before that happens. And now that I've had some time to think about it, and we have 2 full seasons, I'm going to wrap this up with my personal ranking of all 20 episodes that we have so far of Strange New Worlds.